good to see you.
Same here.
And special thank you.
I should say thank you to you.
That is, are we live? Are we live? It doesn't look
Live.
चलो share करो.
Community center में.
Live
I
हो रहा
took
है?
few rounds. I didn't find, but community center has a lot of fun.
Hare Krishna. Welcome to the Bhakti discourse
Hare Krishna.
at the house of Neeral and Khyati Prabhus. So we'll start with some kirtan before our regular kirtaniyas join us here. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Hare
Hare
Hare.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare.
Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Goprimanande Hari Hari Bol. So now I'd like to welcome Vanmali Prabhu, who is Srila Prabhupada's disciple. Thank you so much for gracing this occasion, and may I request you to enlighten us with some more kirtan?
Some more what now?
Kirtan? Like to do some
Some more
kirtan?
kirtan? Would like me to lead a new melody? Okay, let's see. Okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. tune goes way back.
Yeah, no, I love it. It was very nice. Yeah.
I haven't heard it for a while.
So, all those were supposed to come at right? Other than
Piyush Prabhu
Oh,
and,
so one.
They
Oh,
want
he's
to
coming.
do
okay. And Nishkama Mataji.
Yeah, I think Mishkama Mati is
Okay.
Radha Krishna.
हाँ वो तो कीर्तन भी
So I'm just thinking 8 minutes are left.
So
yeah.
they want to do 2 kirtans.
Yeah.
वो बाद में कर सकते
बाद में करना पड़ेगा.
हाँ, चलेगा.
Only 8 minutes are
हाँ.
remaining, right?
Did,
I'm just thinking.
can I ask, did I announce you soon, or?
Yeah,
I wasn't
we
sure
had,
how
we
long.
had 8 minutes. Yeah, 7:30 we start the lecture.
Oh,
So we had 8
7:30.
minutes. Yeah, we had 8
So we,
minutes. Yeah. If you want to continue, you can continue for 8 more minutes. Yeah.
Yes.
what time is it right now?
It's 7:22 right now.
7:22.
Sorry, you were late.
8 more minutes.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So you'd like to continue?
Yeah, please. Yeah, please continue. 7 more minutes. Yeah.
Let me see now. I have to dig deep into my repertoire.
Unless को इनको करना है
7 minutes. We were waiting for you.
Sorry about that. I know you like to start promptly with these programs.
क्लास की बात करें
Yeah, at the end of the class.
Classes started?
No, it's like 7 minutes to 7:30. So he was singing before you came.
Okay,
he
good.
was singing, so he's ended a little bit sooner, so he was singing.
I'm trying to dig deep in my...
What you were singing was wonderful.
So you like that one?
Yeah,
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 yes.
we can continue, just continue.
Okay,
that.
so we'll continue that and we'll learn it by heart.
Yes.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare
Thank you so much, Mali Prabhu, for the wonderful Kirtan.
You are so welcome.
And so we will start as usual with a round of introductions so that those who are watching us online can know who are in. And we'll start with you, Mayank Prabhu, maybe.
Okay. Hare Krishna, my name is Mayank. Very happy to be here.
What makes you happy?
I think the association of devotees is the thing that is making me very happy here.
Very nice.
Yeah.
We are happy to associate with you as well. I'm Shraddha devi Dasi from Foster City, and thank you so much, Khyati Mataji and Neera Prabhu, for inviting me to this Bhakti Vrksh. And behind the camera and refuses to come to the front is my husband, Rakesh Rathod. Somebody has to someday focus it on him.
Always background.
I remember there used to be a serial that my daughter used to watch on the television some 15-20 years ago, And Dad used to see a man always hidden like that. They would never show him below his nose, and they would do it so nicely on the camera that it was not always that he was holding something, but somehow the shot will be like, he's looking at his computer and you can only see this much like that. It was amazing, and everybody was watching like, when is the day when they will remove this? Someone like, how we are covered by a curtain ourselves of ignorance, and we need to remove that curtain of ignorance so that Krishna can reveal and show his face to us. So,
Hare Krishna, my name is Khyati and I'm so happy to receive such jewels from everyone. So, jewel of wisdom. So, thank you so much for coming and giving us association.
And you live in Newbury.
Yes, I live in Wilbur.
she lives in Golok.
Hare Krishna everyone, I am Niral and I'm glad that all the devotees are here, and the kirtan is what I love the most. And it's all different tunes every time, and it's a very
Vibrations.
nectar to the ears. Thank you so much.
We promise we'll have some more tunes at the end.
Yes.
Radha Krishna Das, thank you very much for having me. Mataji and Prabhu and everyone.
Thank you for coming.
From South San Francisco.
Hello, my name is Banamali Das, and I'm so happy to be here amongst all my Bay Area Prabhus and feel their love and their radiance and association. And it feels so good to be here.
Thank you.
So,
Krishna, my name is Shraddha devi Dasi, and I used to attend Bhakti Vrksh in New Jersey way back in 2002 and all that. So I'm used to the format, and it's a nice way to do Sankirtan Yagya.
Yeah.
Hare
South
Krishna.
San Francisco also.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, my name is Suman Kukreti. I'm from San Mateo. I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Mataji, for inviting us, and Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, my name is Veenu. I'm from South San Francisco. Thank you, Mataji and Prabhuji, for doing this for all of us.
From Shraddha Mataji, because of me it's possible.
The discussion can still happen without me.
Mataji,
And then present not in the body but in the spirit is Jyoti Mataji.
Yes.
Neeral and Khyati's mom. We miss her dearly. As we were driving up here, Rakhi was saying, so the mom won't be there today.
back quickly.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So sorry, now it's my cooking.
but apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
I hope so.
Newton was watching.
So, so we'll get started with the reading. And today it's 19th chapter, Perceiving the Spiritual World. Yeah. So, Khyati Mataji, you'd like to read maybe
Sure.
a paragraph?
The spirit soul, being conditioned, acts according to the mode of nature it comes in contact with. According to the level of our conditioning, we seek happiness on the material platform. We are forced to helplessly act according to the impulse born of a modes of nature. The material world consists of three modes of nature: mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. The Gita tells us that beyond the limited material world is the infinite spiritual world. Everyone there is eternal and absorbed in ever increasing happiness. Yet there is another unmanifest nature which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as is. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, Shlok 20.
How can we perceive the existence of a higher dimensional spiritual world? One who is at a higher dimension can see things as lower dimensions. For example, draw a line diagram of a square box on a drawing sheet. Draw a man inside it. Now if you draw another man outside the square box, you cannot see what is happening inside the square, as they both are existing in a two-dimensional city. The outside man cannot see the inside man, but you can see both the men because you exist at 3 dimensions. Now on a 3D plane, if your friend walks into this room and you find that he has closed the door, then you cannot know what he might be doing inside the room. But someone existing in 4D can see you as well as your friend. In this way, one existing in higher and higher dimensions can have access to greater and greater truths. The scriptures say that there are demigods or angels who exist on higher dimensions, like heavenly planets, who can know about us inside out more than what we know about ourselves.
We are like a small ant in the ceiling of a classroom. All that such an ant knows is an infinite flat plane surface all around him. It hardly has any idea about the classroom, the conscious students sitting and listening to a class, the high-level language and conversations they have, the activities they do, and so forth. We are too insignificant to even fathom the tiny material creation of God, or to speak of the vast anti-material world or spiritual world that has multi-dimensions.
B. Wherever there is a need, there should be something to fulfill the need. We feel thirsty, there is water. We feel hungry, there is food. We feel sex urge, there is arrangement. We feel the need to become free from death, ignorance, and sufferings. Thus, there must be a spiritual world of eternity, knowledge, bliss, to fulfill this need. In the spiritual world, there is happy, eternal life, free of any limitations that we experience in the material world, like disease, old age, and death.
C. Can there be a reflection of an object without the real object? Have you seen people who have outstanding beauty without any makeup, even when they get up from their bed in the morning? Have you seen students who have outstanding intelligence to grasp mathematics faster than others? Thus, the world with its people is not some chemical bundle. Intuitively, we understand that these opulence possessed by people pass away with old age and death, but these must be originating from somewhere. Without the sun, a broken glass piece cannot glitter inside a dark room. Without real opulence existing in the spiritual realm, the imitation of such opulence is not possible. Why are we hankering after happiness? Because real eternal happiness must be available somewhere. When we are thirsty in a desert, we may chase after the mirage that does not satisfy us, but the real fresh cooling waters are elsewhere in reservoirs. Counterfeit note is a proof of real currency note. Imitation gold is a proof of real gold. When we are infatuated by someone's beauty, we can understand that this perishable beauty is a reflection of the spiritual beauty. The material world is a reflection of the spiritual world.
The qualification to access the spiritual truths. 3 PhD students of mathematics may be discussing about the proof of a calculus theorem and discussing seriously. A layman can hardly make out anything from that discussion. Similarly, Jesus, Muhammad, Sri Krishna all speak of a spiritual world that can be realized by a sincere practitioner of Bhakti Yoga. But how can a common man whose mind and senses are constantly soaked in the illusory worldly affairs of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, with no performance of austerities, expect to understand about the spiritual world? We need to begin by taking steps to approach a self-realized soul and make a spiritual inquiry. One can easily observe the amazing similarity of descriptions given in different scriptures about the kingdom of God.
Christianity, and there shall be no night there, and they need no candle, neither light of the sun, for the Lord God giveth them light, and they shall reign forever and ever. Hinduism or Sanatan Dharma, the abode of mind is not illuminated by the sun or moon, nor by electricity. One who reaches it never returns to its material world. I worship that transcendental seat known as
Siddhadeep.
where as loving concert the Lakshmis in their unalloyed spiritual essence, practice the service of all attractive Lord Krishna as their only lover. Where the soil is the purpose gem, all water is nectar, every word is a song, every gate is a dance, the flute is the favorite attendant, effulgence is full of transcendental bliss, and the supreme spiritual entities are all enjoyable and tasty, where numberless milk cows always emit transcendental ocean of milk, where there is eternal existence of transcendental time, who is ever present and without past or future, and hence is not subject to the quality of passing away even for the space of half a moment. That realm is known as Goloka only to a very few self-realized souls in this world.
Sikhism. By one pointed love and devotion to God, one attains to that place which is eternal, changeless, and where there is pure happiness. There one enjoys the qualities and pastimes of the Lord. There exists an eternal kingdom of the Lord. In that place there is no fear, no illusion, nor bewilderment, no miseries. And there is no birth and death. There is only pure eternal spiritual bliss in that abode. The devotees of the Lord in that abode subsist on glories of the Supreme Soul God. GGS Raggod Gureri Mahala 5 Asata Paudia 4.
Zoroastrianism. Wohuman says to that soul, from the mortal world, you are welcome here in this blissful eternal world. Wohuman tells the soul, O Holy One, you are welcome in this world full of happiness, having come from the world of misery.
The main feature of the spiritual world is that everyone there loves Krishna and loves each other with the fullness of their being. When we purify our hearts and awaken our innate love for Krishna, we become qualified to enter the spiritual world, to take up our eternal service. Once attaining the supreme spiritual world, our real home, we souls never have to return to the material world. We are spiritual beings, but when the soul actually desires to enjoy this material world independently of Krishna, he comes to the material world.
Avyaktakshara ipi uktastamahu paramam gatim chang prapya na nivartante tadhama paramam mama. That which the Vedantis describe as unmanifest and infallible, that which is known as the supreme destination, that place from which, having attained it, one never returns, that is my supreme abode. Sri Krishna Bhagavad Gita 8:2-1.
Thank you for reading. So, how was it? The narration?
The dimensions was very nice.
Yeah, the
You as you
higher
go to the
and higher
higher-
you go, you
Yeah.
see the complete picture.
Right. And it's amazing that, for us to believe that there is God, it comes by itself, sort of, for most of us, because of the cultural momentum. But they have explained it in such a nice and a structured and a scientific manner, and which is very helpful when you are out preaching, because you have to talk to non-believers, and for them to move from that paradigm to this is a big shift.
And also it gives a logical meaning, right? Even when we keep on thinking of ourselves at times, like, okay, it reminds us, okay.
It's so interesting that how the very first one says one who's at a higher dimension can see things at a lower dimension. And I was listening to a lecture and I'm forgetting who it was, and my bad. So they were talking about as you go to the higher dimension, like they were talking about demigods, right? Mm-hmm. One of the things was that in the text it said that there are demigods there who can see. And that's a pretty scary thought, isn't it?
We know ourselves better than we know
Sometimes you're sitting and you're doing some nonsense and you think that nobody is watching you. And of course, there's Lord Shiva and smiling with Parvati and saying, hey, look at that devotee. But he's doing that. So that was when I realized that it was pretty scary. And there are other verses also that talk about Deva Netrena. So everything happens under the supervision of God and demigods.
Dharma
Like that. Yeah. So
I think that is good also, right?
absolutely,
That
yes.
you are
Vigilance.
not feeling alone anytime. There is always someone.
That is true, and that from the previous chapter when you were reading about the super soul, if you know that the super soul is there, you will never feel alone. And actually, once you come to that stage is when you start to get real happiness. But they were talking about real and unreal things over here, and real happiness actually comes from within. You have the super soul, and you realize and you get connected to God. Otherwise, we try to find things out from the outside world, and we never get a lasting happiness. And this narration also mentioned that, right? And the reason for that, why do we not get happiness lasting from the outside world? Why do you think we don't? Sorry?
Because it's transient.
Yes.
Temporary.
The source from where you're trying to get happiness itself is transient, right? But you are not. You are a soul and you are not transient, so you're always looking for permanent relationships. So whenever people get married, they say happily forever after. That's what they think, right? So in anything, like you have a possession, you want to have that. You have a position, you want to have that position forever. We don't like change at all, right? Because we are changeless by nature. We are changeless, so we don't want to do that. And so happiness actually comes from inside yourself. For example, if you're working and you go to your boss and your boss says that you had applied for vacation to go for maybe some yatra or something like that, or it's Janmashtami and you had applied for some, and he says okay, you're going to get the vacation, and then on top of that he tells you that you're promoted and he gives you a salary raise, which is also very good. So you're feeling happy, right? So when you come back home and you see that your kid is there, playing on the internet, and then you go and very lovingly ask him, like, is everything happening, and is the Comcast bill paid for, and do you want me to pay more money for your SIM card or whatever, So why is that happening? Why is that change? Because there is happiness from inside. It's coming from inside. You're already happy, so it becomes easy for you over there. So back again to gods and demigods. So where it was mentioned that they're at a higher dimension, and they can see the things that are going on. And also you have to notice that sometimes we come across demigods and we look at their behavior, and we might just think that this is such an odd behavior. For example, we say demigods are originally devotees of the Lord, right? And so they are devotees of the Lord, so then Indra must also be a devotee of the Lord, right?
Yeah.
So what is Indra doing with so many apsaras? I mean, here you're telling us about the 4 regulative principles. And a higher devotee than us, is there, who has been giving so much of charge, is out there. So as you go up higher in the higher dimensions, the rules are also different. The different set of rules will apply there at the higher dimension. So we should not get, scandalized by like, oh, what's going on over there? We are here in this realm for such particular reason, and we should,
Also,
be
they are not
satisfied
pure
with that.
devotees. They also have material desires.
Yes.
But then they enjoy in a different way.
In a different way, yeah.
Matas,
So-
can I ask
Yeah.
basic question a step before that?
Uh-huh.
Like here it says that we are forced to helplessly act according to the impulse born of material modes of nature, right? And then there are 3 types of modes of nature. So if we want to experience that higher dimension, how do we transcend our current situation? What are the recommended steps, and how should our life be so that we work towards that?
Yeah. So, there's a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam that says, Parthivad daruno dhumas tasmat agnir trayima tamastastu rajas tasmat satyam yad brahma darshanam. So it says that lowest is the earth, and then which is tamas, and then from the earth you get wood, right? So wood is good, but then there's not much you can do from the wood unless there's fire that comes out of it. Once the fire comes in, you can do yagya, you can cook your food, you can do various kinds of things, right? So that is the mode of goodness. And satyam yad brahma darshanam. So you have to reach to that mode of goodness. From there you have to transcend and go beyond, right? So how do you transcend that? So that is where the devotional service comes into picture, right? So you will be, and as you progress in devotional service, for example, give me some examples of what you do in devotional service. Some examples of, it's a service, right? So what are some of the services that you do?
For Krishna.
You cook for Krishna, very good. What else do you do?
Chanting.
You chant for Krishna. You distribute books for Krishna.
Study the Shastras.
Study the Shastras, right? You sing for Krishna. like that. Okay. So what happens is as you start engaging your so we have been provided these senses, right? And these senses will act according to the swabhav that you have got. And some people are very much in the mode of goodness. Some people are very much in the mode of passion. Some people are very much in the mode of ignorance completely. And why they get to that particular mode will depend on the sum total of what they have been doing, what kind of desires they have, and so on and so forth. Right? But so once you are, and so you are put in a particular kind of a body, and that body will react, either be in the mode of goodness. And when I say body, I mean both the gross body that you see as well as the subtle body. So it'll be put in so the body will be either in the mode of goodness and passion. And also remember that this is also not permanent. Everything changes. So as the day progresses, also your modes can change. You could be in the sattvic mode in the Brahma Muhurta, and then after sunset, you can be completely in ignorance like that. So these things also change, and so there's a mode of material nature that will be acting, and the soul, because of the false ego, is thinking that I'm doing all that. So the good thing is that you have got these material senses, but what you can do is that you can engage these material senses in the devotional service of the Lord, right? And we always hear about the famous example of King Kulshekhara, who used all his senses, right? He used to use his eyes to look at the deity. He used to use his nose to smell tulsi flowers. He used to use his hands to wash the temple. He used to use his legs to walk, and ears to hear Krishna Katha, mouth to glorify. So he was using all his senses. So as you start doing these devotional practices, and especially chanting, then what happens is that your senses actually start getting spiritualized. And to the layman, it's very difficult to just see and see, like, Radha Krishna Prabhu is sitting here. I don't know. Maybe he's all spiritual. But to me, with my material eyes, he might look like just another human being, like that, or just another devotee like me. So that is why, like Prabhupada, they used to say that, Prabhupada is different. Or even the spiritual master, they say, is from a different world. So you can see that, you can perceive that, but it happens. And there's a verse that says that Athashi Krishnam Namadi na bhaved grahyam indiye sevan mikho vijivhado swam ev spurati ada. So it says that with these material senses you cannot see Krishna, but then when you start doing the seva, when you start doing service, sevan mikho jivha adao. Jivha means your tongue. Adao means in the beginning. So in the beginning you start doing the service with your tongue. And how do you do the service with your tongue? There are two ways in which you can do service with the tongue, right?
Glorifying Krishna.
One is glorifying Krishna or chanting. Yeah, chanting. And the second is
Krishna Prasad.
And Krishna Prasad. And there you go. That's the better one and the easy one, right? Yeah.
Glories of Krishna.
What happened to Nishkanda?
She's reciting some mantras there.
She's on the prayer. Okay. So, Seva Mikho Jivadyo Swam Eva Sparatyada. So once you start doing these things, then what happens is that your material senses, which were not able to see spiritual objects, they become spiritualized. And then Krishna will swam by himself. Krishna will spuratya, he will manifest himself. So that is how you will cross the boundary. Not necessarily that all of us start from the mode of ignorance, but if you are the lowest mode of ignorance, rise yourself above to passion and go to goodness, and then from goodness you'll be able to sattvam yad brahma darshanam. So once you move to the highest stage, sattvam, then you're able to see Brahma, which is the transcendental. Swam oev spratyata. So you have to chant. So so you have to do devotional service. And in Kali Yuga, which we are luckily in, because it says that Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam, kalau nasti eva, nasti eva, nasti eva, gathe anyatha. So like that. So it's a slow, gradual process, but you will perceive it, and you will know for yourself. Like sometimes people ask that, how do I know that I'm progressing? And so there's a verse which says that, as when you are very, very hungry, if you're very, very hungry and then you are given some food, right? And as you're given some food, you start eating that food. So with the first morsel you eat, and your hunger will subside a little bit, and you feel a little bit nourished, right? Like in an Ekadashi day, by the end of the day, when you're so starving, it's like, where's all my strength gone? And then you break the fast, and with the first morsel you start feeling good, and then more good, and then more good, like that. So similarly with devotional service also. So nobody really tells you that, Kathy, you have taken 3 chapatis, so I think you're done. Nobody says that. It comes from within, from yourself. Similarly in devotional service also, you will perceive yourself that you are progressing. And one of the signs of progress in devotional service is that you're happy. Because what is there to lament for? Right? Once you realize that you're the soul, there's nothing to lament for. All the lamentations come from the body or extensions of the body. Right? So the moment you cross that boundary and you are there, so Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma. Rashochati Nakachati. Right? There you go. Right? And
That's
what does
Mayank's
it
favorite.
do? Mayank's favorite? That's a good favorite to have, Mayank's.
I need you to preach to me.
Yeah. He's already sitting on a Brahma Bhuta platform. Like that. So, so I was talking about like as you go to the higher levels. For example, if you're driving on a road, right? If you're driving on a road, you're in a car, and you come to a traffic light, and if the traffic signal is red, and if you try to drive across it, assuming that nobody is over there on the other side, if you drive the car across it, then is it legal or not legal? It is not legal, right? So if there's a cop car standing on the other end of the traffic light, you will get caught, right? And you will be liable to be fined, and he will be justified in fining you, right? But if you are sitting in an aeroplane and you're flying over that freeway, over that road, right? And if you fly over a red light, does anybody come and tell you that, hey, we'll jump the red light? They don't tell you that, right? So when you are in higher dimensions, the rules are different over there. Okay. What else did you glean from this?
One realization I had is that there is so much more than what we can see with material senses. Like we might be in one dimension only, but we might not even know that there are so many higher dimensions.
Yes.
That is ignorance.
And then also, like dogs can see some colors, bats can see some kind of sort of a spectrum. We are only under the VIBGYOR, right? From violet to red. That's always infraviolet and ultraviolet and infrared. We can't see like that, right?
You can hear also.
Yeah, you can hear also more. Yeah, and faster. So there we are limited. Our senses are limited. Yeah, they're limited and defective. Yeah, like that. Yeah. What else? This was a very interesting chapter. Actually. What else you found good here?
I think I really liked on the page second, right? Various religion, and they also teach the same thing. So there is like a unity in the message that comes across. So
Why do you think there is a unity in the message?
Because it is the soul property, right? And everyone thinks in terms of a soul. So the basic principle remains same. Only the religion or the name or a label is different.
Yes,
But message that originally Krishna had given, which is like taken by other thought leaders also, is same.
Is the same. Yeah, because the origin is the same. The origin is the Vedic culture. And then most of the varieties of religions actually pop up during the Kali Yuga.
Right.
Right? You see Christianity came, some 2,000 plus years ago. Islam came 700 years ago, like that, 800, like that. So, and why? Because people have got there's different time, there's different place, there are different circumstances, people have different moods, and so it's like, okay, fine, if you can't follow the rigid Vedic, rigid and a bit more difficult Vedic principles, then okay, I'm going to make some concessions for you, and at least do whatever you do, at least you come and do that. I also liked on page 1 itself, a small ant in the ceiling of a classroom. Right, I was just thinking that there are so many ants, or hopefully not. There are insects that you cannot see, and of course there are other. A room is full of a lot of living entities actually, which we don't see, and their vision is very much, And I also like it's again in point number A, the second paragraph, where in the end says, what to speak of the vast anti-material world or spiritual world that has multi-dimensions. And Prabhupada in one of his books explains very nicely the concept of antimatter. Like scientists talk about matter and antimatter, and then he comes in and says, yeah, soul is antimatter. So I really was struck by that, comparison that he's making. There's like, oh, right,
Easy journey to other planets.
Easy journey to other planets, exactly. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much for that.
He wrote that in India, that book. He saw some article about antimatter published by scientists, and then
he came up with that. He was brilliant, yeah. Sri Prabhupada was brilliant. And I have to tell you this, that once at ISV we were planning to go and distribute books. And so we said NASA I think once in 12 years, like kind of like the Kumbh Mela, or once in 25 years, I don't know. I prefer 12. That sounds good. So once in 12 years, what they do is they open up NASA and people can come and go inside and see some of the things that are not, shown to people. So a lot that gets manifested there. And there's such a huge rush going there. I mean, the roads are blocked and people, go, and I think they can see through special, telescopes and, go see outside the world, and you're like, okay, here's a chance to come close to Mars and things like that. And so our team wanted to, and the Caltrain station is blocked. I mean, they come in thousands and thousands and thousands. And so our book distribution team, I wanted to go and distribute books, and they went to see that, and they wanted, they came back quickly back to ISV and took loads of easy journey to other planets. What are you trying to do? Going through so much of rush traffic, this and that, this is easy journey to other planet. Read this book, you can go to Golokunda. Want to talk about going close to the Mars and material world. So yeah. Yeah, that was amazing. It was very brilliant. Yeah, Mali Mataji and her team did that.
But I think that is also like, since we are in the material world, we always think of going to the higher planets through the material senses, right?
Exactly.
But then there is like so much into the spiritual realm, and we have to tap into that spiritual realm too.
Exactly, yeah.
Completely different dimension.
Yeah. Actually, in the Bhagavad Gita, it talks about that the soul resides in a body which has got 9 holes, and the soul actually leaves the body usually from one of these 9 holes that we have got. And actually, all these holes are excretory holes as well. Like when you go to sleep in the night and you get up in the morning, your eyes are sticky, your nose has got something sticky and a little bit dry outside. So and the reason for that is that all of them are excreting. The eyes also excrete. There is a street. The skin will excrete.
Including the Brahmatalu?
No, not that. I'll come to that. Yeah, I'll come to that. Yeah. So the 9 doesn't include. That's the 10th. Yeah. So that's one way of. So these are all excretory organs, and the lower the hole is, then they say that after death the soul will go to a lower birth or a lower place like that. So the higher the the eyes, if it goes up from the eyes, it's supposed to be good like that. So that's one way of leaving, through some excretory hole. And the other way of leaving is, there's a 10th hole over here, that the soul can actually pierce through the skull and go, and that is where the yogi can control the higher planets and go to a higher dimension. The soul can go to a planet with a higher dimension like that. So in the Bhagavad Gita also there's a picture of that yogi, very skeletal yogi is there, and you see the soul coming out of his body and leaving the body, so he's actually leaving from there. And Prabhupada is saying that, we don't even have to bother too much about, controlling your breath and, raising your life air and, chakras and all that kind of stuff. If you're doing devotional service, all that will happen automatically into your body, and, the devotee doesn't care where he goes after that. What else?
Devotional service with sense constraint, right?
Say that.
Like devotional service, but with controlling of the senses, right? Because I may do devotional services like, okay, I may go and serve in temple, but then again, if I think I sleep a lot, then it may not be helpful.
Yes. So yuktahara viharasa, everything has to be balanced in life. The balance has to be
done
maintained.
with the service attitude.
Yeah. How can I serve? How can I serve? How can I serve? That's the question we should be asking all the time. Actually, I was just talking to my Guru Maharaj a couple of days ago, and he said that if you change your mood to how I can serve, then a lot of your problems go away. Like for example, if I come into this room, into this house, right, to conduct this class, and if I'm just thinking, okay, so let me see what Khyati Mataji is going to do for me. Is she going to put a nice cushion over here? Is she going to arrange the table nicely? Where is my glass of water? And things like that. And if she misses on one thing, that's it. My mood will be off because she didn't do that. Right?
I'm probably saying I haven't given water.
So you do that. So
Self-realization.
or if I come into the mood of serving and saying, how can I serve Khyati, who must have worked really hard in the morning, since morning to get this thing going, and she has been working on it for days together. And how can I serve? How can I make it better? then you don't even care about these small things that happen here and there. So once you have that service attitude, that changes your world and changes your perspective for the better, always. Because then you're not asking about, what others are going to do for me, what you are going to do for others. And when you have guests, if you go to somebody's home and you are that guest who's always looking for something, some seva, and they didn't do this, they didn't give me the best room, they didn't do this and didn't do that, and then you will be miserable, right? On the other hand, if you're going and saying like, how can I serve them, then it's a world of a difference, because they will like you because you go there and you serve them, so you'll be the most welcoming, you'll be on the list of welcome guests there. So it changes your life like that. I mean, I can go on and on about service. It's to be done. What else? What else did you find?
I think the point C is also nice. It's talking about reflection. So we see these perverted things in the material world, but they're actually evidence of the real spiritual world.
Yes, very right. Yeah. How can they bury a counterfeit coin without there being an original coin, right? So they're saying, right? Or currency note, something like that. So the fact that there is, like for example, you say, oh, this was a rope, so I mistook it to a snake. And the reality is the rope. That's what, the Mayavadis will say. The reality is just the rope. No. The fact that you mistook it to a snake means that there's some snake, real snake also exists someplace. You just mistook this to be like that. So that's what it's saying, that there is a reality. How can there be a reflection about it without the... and then I really like that sentence there in which it says towards the end of point number C, first paragraph, point number C, it says that why are we hankering after happiness? Because real eternal happiness must be available somewhere.
Yes.
Right? And that is what we should be aiming for. What about point B? I really like point B. It was very powerful.
Yes.
It's a very powerful point. Yeah, tell us more.
Then we don't have to be afraid, right? Whatever the needs are, it's provided in this world. So even our need is to experience the spiritual world, that is provided by Krishna.
By Krishna. Actually, Eko Bahunam Yo Dadadati Kaman, right? There's only one, Jivan, right? There's only one Krishna, and he's providing the needs for all the others, right? All the others. And Vrksh Prabhu always says that, he always tells us in, stories from his backyard where he sits and chants, and he was saying that I came back, I went to, for Kartik, and then when I came back, there's a squirrel that lives in his backyard, and when he comes back from Kartik, he says, oh, it got a new fur coat. I mean, people spend thousands of dollars trying to get a fur coat, and the squirrel gets it for free, right? And then, there are parsimons there up on the tree, and it goes and eats the parsimons. It'll go and hang on a fence completely, too much of food. And so Krishna is providing. Krishna is providing that. So once you get that, but what I was just saying is that whenever there is a need, there should be there should be something to fulfill the need. And they were saying so you feel thirsty, so there is water available for you. So you have to really sit back and think that, okay, I'm somehow or the other, I was born here, I took birth here, but how things have been arranged for me, right? I mean, I feel thirsty. There is something called water. It is not that you are on planet Earth, you will feel thirsty and there will be nothing to quench your thirst. I mean, those are hellish planets. But at least here they have been provided for you. So I was really struck by this paragraph. So there should be something to fulfill the need. And the climax there is that we feel the need to become free from death, ignorance and suffering. And here comes the good point and the reassurance that, if there is, for your thirst, if there is something to fulfill it, for your other requirements, there is something to fulfill it, then if you want an eternal life, there must be something to fulfill that also. Right? It's kind of like, how you used to do the math problems, Rakesh, remember? A implies B, B implies C, C implies, like that. So, so that is really very reassuring. That all these things, so that will help you develop the faith. So that's why I liked the way this particular chapter was presented.
Even
in a very nice way.
reverse engineering, right? Whatever is given to us, what has been fulfilled because we had the need for it, right? So Krishna already did that.
Exactly, Krishna does that. And that is why, I mean, when I read this, I actually went a little bit deeper into saying that wherever there is a need, there is something to fulfill it. So now you have to go and try to figure out who is the one who is fulfilling it. So there has to be somebody who's fulfilling it, and that is, that superior intelligence or whatever. If you don't like to use the word God, but I like. So,
Yeah, that's why a lot of people use the word superpower.
yeah,
Something
superpower,
that
superior
they
intelligence.
cannot define, they call it superpower. But at least they have a realization that humans
There is
are not
something-
capable of,
Yeah. But they might even
creating these things. They have been created by some superpower.
Yes, yes. And then they use the terms like super intelligence and superior intelligence and things like that. I'm kind of just thinking that one day if you're reclining on your chair and you're just thinking about like I have hands, so I'm able to do this. I have legs, so I'm able to do this. I have a tongue, so I'm able to do this, this, and this. But if I'm a superior intelligence, I should have something, right, to be able to do all these things. But then it's my envy of Krishna that I don't accept the fact, and I'll say, oh, it's some formless thing, like that.
I think if there's no faith, then they won't really think in that direction. They'll try to find everything in the material world itself.
Exactly.
No,
It's
it's
doing
not
the
that they
same
don't
thing.
have faith. They haven't experienced. They haven't correlated yet that it's this way.
Yeah, and when the correlation will happen, then the faith will.
Yeah,
will
but
also come.
I guess
Yeah.
it's one step, right? Like once you believe, then you will experience that, and then that becomes permanent.
Permanent. Yeah.
You can only cultivate that faith if you have some realization.
Yeah.
If you have no realization from inside, it's very difficult to develop that.
So I think the step one is that they realize it's beyond themselves, that there is like
Exactly.
super.
Yeah. So that's why in the devotional service they say Adav Shraddha. Adav Shraddha means that first Shraddha Mataji will come to your home.
Yeah, we love it.
No, I'm just kidding. So your devotional service first begins with faith. And how do you get faith? That's the question, right? Some people don't have faith. I mean, they beg others, like, I wish I had the same kind of dedication that you have. How am I not able to? How am I not able to do that? How am I not able to do that?
Comes
So
from
faith will.
Sukriti.
Huh?
Previous Sukriti.
Absolutely right. Yeah, it comes from previous Sukriti. And Sukriti can also be of two types. There can be Sukriti, pious activities that you can do. For example, I can do some. So here's the thing, that when you give something, you are going to get it back. So rest assured, it is going to come back to you, and might not happen immediately, might take some time, but it will come back. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada actually goes very much into details and explains it, and he says that if you give $10 to an ordinary person, it's a guarantee you will get the $10 back, either in this life or next life or some other next life, you'll get it back, right? If you give $10 to somebody a little bit higher, engaged in devotional service, then you will get it manyfold, not just the $10, a little bit more. And if you give it to somebody who has completely dedicated their lives, then you get it million times, many times you get it. So this is also Sukriti, but it is, you did it, so you see the gradations of Sukriti that you're getting there, right? And at the lowest level, it's more like a material Sukriti. But sometimes we do what is known as Bhakti Unmukhi Sukriti. That you will do some Sukriti that will lead you towards Bhakti. So when you do that kind of a Sukriti, then you have Adav Shraddha, then Shraddha comes. And
So
as soon as the
saintly person is coming, you offer obeisances,
there you
or you
go.
open the door
Open the door for him.
offer him a glass of water.
Absolutely,
Those
absolutely. And sometimes it is Agyat Sukriti. Agyat means I do not know. So Agyat Sukriti is I do not know. For example, when Krishna was teaching Uddhav, before he was leaving this world, Maitreya Rishi comes there. And it's like Maitreya Rishi happens to be there. And in the verse it says, oh, so it is Agyat. So Prabhupada explained, it says it was Agyat because of Agyat Sukriti that he happened to be there when Krishna was giving this discourse to Uddhav, and so he hears it as well. Otherwise, Maitreya Rishi was an impersonalist. And so then and we went to our teacher and said, so Shivas Prabhu, what was that Sukriti he did? He said, it's Agyat Sukriti. We couldn't get that. Yeah, but we are asking him, what was that Sukriti? He said, Agyat Sukriti means you do not know what is that they did. It could be that, you were driving on the freeway and somebody was trying to, to pass and, get in front of you, and you slowed down a little bit and you didn't know there was a sannyasi in that. You did not know. So just as you have Agyat Sukriti, the other thing also, Agyat Vaishnava Aparadh can also happen. So, unknowingly also you can do, and the reality is that you do get punished for Vaishnava Aparadhs. And actually, when you hear the pastime of Dhruv Maharaj in Srimad Bhagavatam, who had a stepmother, right? And Dhruv Maharaj was only 5 years old. At that time, he was a full-fledged, he was a Kshatriya, and he was not a devotee of the Lord at that time. And his stepmother says some nasty things to him. And then later on, he gets offended, he goes and does devotional service, becomes a pure devotee of the Lord when he finally sees the Lord. And then later on, his stepmother dies a very bad death. Her son dies and she goes mad and she gets consumed by fire and things like that. And in the explanation, it was mentioned that, it was because of Vaishnava Aparadh. And it's like, so which was the Vaishnava she offended? Well, she offended Dhruv Maharaj. But Dhruv Maharaj was not a Vaishnava at that time. He was just a Kshatriya boy at 5 years old. But then, you know what? If you offend a Vaishnava, a future Vaishnava also, so you have to be careful all the time not to offend anybody. As that is a thumb, that should be a thumb rule. Because you don't know when this person is going to become a Vaishnava. So, Agya Sukriti. So you get that. So, Adav Shraddha, yeah. More? We need to begin by taking steps to approach a self-realized soul and make a spiritual inquiry. The qualification to access the spiritual truth, right? So we have to do that, and we have taken that step, right? You all approach Srila Prabhupada by reading his books. And of course I like na tad bhashyate suryo na shashanko na pavaka. So yeah, you read all those things, but Bhagavad Gita comes across so beautiful. Should we all recite 15.6 together?
Yes.
You have some Bhagavad Gita books?
I Yeah, if you read.
Shubla.
Oh, Shubla.
Yeah.
Like worshipping Ganesh. It's Shubla. In this case, it's translated.
15.6.
Shubla.
It's a little like Gujarati.
I think we can share. So one is
The is different. Bhav is there. Thanks.
So we can sing it all together. Chapter 15, verse number 6. Anybody wants a copy? Rakesh, take this one.
We'll share.
Oh, yes, want to share it? Verse number 6.
page 558.
Page 558.
8. Thank you. Well, actually, page. Yeah.
Look at the
558. Okay. So let's all sing that together. Natad bhashyate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha yad gatva na nivartante tad dhamma paramam mama. Na, not.
No, not.
Together.
Na,
Tat,
not.
that.
That.
Bhashyate
Bhashyate
illuminates.
illuminates.
Suryaha,
Suryaha,
the sun.
the sun.
Na, no. Shashankaha,
The moon.
na, no. Pavakaha, fire. Electricity. Yat,
Here,
where.
here.
Gatva, going.
Going.
Na,
Na,
never.
never. Nivartante, they come back.
Na, tat,
Dhama, that abode. Paramam,
paramam, supreme. Mama,
mine.
that
That
supreme
supreme
abode
abode
of
of
mind
mind
is not illuminated by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. Okay, let's just read one paragraph each.
15.
Kathy, yeah, okay. 15.6.
The spiritual world, the abode of Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, which is known as Krishnalok or Golak Vrindavan, is described here. In the spiritual sky, there is no need of sunshine, moonshine, fire or electricity, because all the planets are self-luminous. We have only one planet in this universe, the sun, which is self-luminous, but all the planet in the spiritual sky are self-luminous. The shining effulgence of all those planets called Vaikutas constitutes the shining sky known as Brahmajyoti. Actually, the effulgence is emanating from the planet of Krishna, Golok Vrindavan. Part of that shining effulgence is covered by Mahat Tattva, the material world. Other than this, the major portion of that shining sky is full of spiritual planet, which are called Vaikutas, chief of which is Golok Vrindavan.
As long as a living entity is in this dark material world, he is in conditioned life. But as soon as he reaches a spiritual sky by By cutting through the false, perverted tree of this material world, he becomes liberated. Then there is no chance of his coming back here. In his conditioned life, the living entity considers himself to be the lord of this material world. But in the liberated state, he enters into the spiritual kingdom and becomes an associate of the Supreme Lord. There he enjoys eternal bliss, eternal life, and full knowledge.
One should be captivated by this information. He should desire to transfer himself to the eternal world and extricate himself from this false reflection of reality. For one who is too much attached to this material world, it is very difficult to cut that attachment. But if he takes to Krishna consciousness, there is chance of gradually becoming detached. One has to associate himself with devotees, those who are in Krishna consciousness. One should search out a society dedicated to Krishna consciousness and learn how to discharge devotional service. In this way, he can cut off his attachment to the material world. One cannot become detached from the attraction of the material world simply by dressing himself in saffron cloth. He must become attached to the devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, one should take it very seriously that devotional service, as described in the 12th chapter, is the only way to get out of this false representation of the real tree. In chapter 14, the contamination of all kinds of processes by material nature is described. Only devotional service is described as purely transcendental.
The words Paramam Mama are very important here. Actually, every nook and corner is the property of the Supreme Lord, but the spiritual world is Paramam, full of 6 opulences. The Katha Upanishad 2:15 also confirms that in the spiritual world there is no need of sunshine, moonshine, or stars. Natatra Suryo Bhakti Na Kandra
Chandra.
For the whole spiritual sky is illuminated by the internal potency of the Supreme Lord. That supreme abode can be achieved only by surrender and by no other means.
So, how do we get out of this material world?
Surrender.
Surrendering, right? And get over the attachment. Get over the attachment. So how do you get over attachments to this material world? It says asanga shastrena dhinena chitva. In the earlier words, attach it from a lower level to something which is at a higher level. So instead of just listening to filmy music, Bollywood music, you start listening to the kirtan, right? The sense is always, and that way, that is the real asanga, that you cut down the lower and then get attached to the higher. Otherwise, senses will keep on hankering and they will keep on bringing you back and down. So asanga shastina dhrinena chitva. You have to understand that dhrina means with determination. So determination is also required. Without determination, it's not possible because the modes of material nature are powerful. But we always keep on reading that, Mama Maya Duratraya, Krishna says this Maya is very difficult to overcome, and, it is difficult to overcome, senses are very strong and things like that. And so Prabhupada once said that, it's not that Maya is strong, it's that you are weak. And that, it's not that Maya is strong, it's you who are weak. So that we can always work on us because there's no point trying to take on Maya.
Makes sense.
Yeah. But we can always strengthen our things, yeah.
I really like this, Mataji. One
Yes,
should
Shreena.
search out a society dedicated to Krishna conscious and learn how to discharge devotional service.
Yes, yes.
For me, this really helped.
Life changing,
Wonderful.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's a life changing thing. It's a life changing thing. Yeah. Because once you go to a society which is dedicated to doing that, you will see that people are all doing that. The conversation topics, the food that they eat, the way they behave, and all that is all common and all geared up to Krishna. So everybody's doing things for Krishna. How can we do this? And they could be doing different kinds of things. It's not necessarily. And this is one of the questions that people always ask: is that you're always asking me to think about Krishna all the time, right? Tasmat sarmeshu kaleshu mam anusmara yuddhacha. Krishna tells Arjuna, right? Always think about me. And so you do your war as you're thinking about me. So what does it mean that you are fighting about, and how can you think about Krishna? And we recently had Govind Charan Prabhu in our temple, and then he's a wonderful, wonderful speaker. And he said that Well, so when Krishna said to Arjun that Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anusmara Yuddhacha, so Arjuna was not saying, like not shooting his arrows and saying, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. He was not doing that. So when you're doing things for Krishna, you're focused on the fact that I am doing this for Krishna, and so you will still excel. So whatever focus and attention is required to pull the arrow and to pull the bow, and you will still concentrate on it. But the back of your mind, your back channel, it will always be that I'm doing this particular thing for Krishna. So that is the mood. That is the mood. The mood is actually got to change. It's not that you have to constantly be chanting Hare Krishna all the time, and people you'll become a recluse, because whenever people come to talk to you about something, and you'll be just saying Hare Krishna like that. So that's So Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu is that that's how you think about Krishna. And Vrksh Prabhu recently gave a very nice example. He said that when we say that you should be engaging in devotional service of the Lord and doing things for Krishna, and doing transcendental activities, what exactly is a transcendental activity, right? How do I know? What am I supposed to do? Krishna doesn't talk to me. He tells me. He doesn't come to the morning and tell you, hey, Khyati, you do this and this thing. No, it doesn't happen. Suman, you're supposed to do this. I wish. Well, be careful about that, Vish, and I'll talk a little bit about that later.
It's okay if you're surrendered, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, because
yeah, I know.
yeah.
Excellent.
So Krishna doesn't give you a list. So what do we do?
Go to Krishna's representative.
Go to Krishna's representative. Thank you so much for 10 points. So who's Krishna's representative? Your guru, right? And he gave a very nice example. He says, if you look at His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj, right? He has written so many books. So you know about it, what is involved in writing a book? You have to talk to the publisher. They might not be devotees, all of them, right? And there'll be deadlines, and there'll be proofs and editing and marketing, and then you go and give lectures and you travel, talk about your book, market your book, popularize your book. So these don't look like a devotional service. Where is the ghee wick? Where is the incense? But this is devotional service. Why? Because he's following the order of his spiritual master. Whatever the spiritual master told him to do, the spiritual master is gone 50 years ago, but he's still doing it. He's still writing books, because Prabhupada said you should write books profusely. So that is what, following the order of the spiritual master is real devotional service. So Krishna said you fight, and so Arjun was following his spiritual master. He fought to the best of his capabilities. He didn't sit down and say, I'm going to chant Hare Krishna like that. So we are at 8:30 now. We'll stop here, and we'd love to have a little bit of Kirtan followed by Prasad and prayer.
Yeah,
What time
and-
should be at 8:45? We should.
Yeah, and anytime. It's
Anytime?
tomorrow is Sunday.
Tomorrow
so
is Sunday. Oh, okay.
yeah, and we request Narsimha prayer for Hari Priya, who is in the hospital. So
We are in right company.
so during one of the devotees in ISKCON, her daughter has pneumonia and she's admitted to hospitals. She's 1.5-year-old. So
She's in Stanford Children's Hospital. Kali.
Yeah.
I think they had come here during the
They came once, yes.
yeah
yes, I
during the
remember that.
Chappan Bhog.
Chappan Bhog, yeah, two sessions ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
before I went to India, right?
Yes,
yeah.
before you went to India in
Yeah, yeah.
February.
The day I goofed up on the timing.
She's in ICU since the past 15 days.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Oh.
तो अभी I think
Wow.
probably और हफ्ता शायद, but again we don't know.
Yeah. So send me the details and I'll see if I
Yeah.
can squeeze it.
Yeah.
Something like that. So,
So can I use that?
Yes.
Yes.
so we will do keyboard. So, yeah. So it's a bhajan and then prasadam prayer, Narsimha prayer and prasadam prayer. All yours. Yeah.
Narsimha prayer first? Or what do you? Okay. You want to do a bhajan first?
Bhajan first. I think that will
Yes,
set
I
the
have some
mood,
sheets we can sing from the Gaudiya.
right? Yes, whatever. It's
Bhajan
yours.
is-
Yeah. Yours to sing.
Let's see.
I can do.
So, how can I do this?
I also don't know.
ये तुम organize करके रखो.
So this is a song by Bhakti Thakur. Radha Krishna Bal Bol Bal Re Savai.
Very nice. I have one.
आगे इधर देखो.
In my bag.
Okay, good. Would you like to read the translation? start this one, right?
Hopefully battery है. क्या क्यों battery नहीं?
I know this song. We sing this in temple sometimes, yeah. And even in the yatra, Guru Maharaj sings this song in the yatra and
Oh, अच्छा.
Puri
Guru
yatra.
Maharaj is who? Vaisheshika Prabhu?
Haan ji.
Okay.
Yes, yes, Guru Maharaj. He sings this.
Yeah, there are different melodies.
I am also looking for your new melodies, but please, yeah. I have to learn the
You sang this song in Jagannath Puri?
Yes. Yeah.
every year.
Every
Jagannath
year.
Puri Maya
That's how
every
I
year.
was like, yeah, I know this song.
If you have an outlet, you
Yeah,
can
he
also
loves
use that.
the Bengali music
Oh, he
and
doesn't?
songs. He just simply loves it.
When did you go to Puri?
This year also, no, this year I couldn't go to Puri, but I was in Mayapur for 3 days. But last year it was
You went to Puri.
Puri and Mayapur both for like almost.
So while we're fixing the,
like
while we're fixing this,
yeah,
keyboard,
one
can
of
we
the
just
best
read from Sri
experiences.
Namamrita?
हाँ
कर लो तो take your time. Yeah. Namamrita करते हैं. Okay.
Oh,
Lord Chaitanya introduced the Sankirtan Yajna for the deliverance of all men in this age of Kali. Lord Krishna to Arjuna, in the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods along with sacrifices for Vishnu and blessed them by saying, "Be thou happy by this yajna sacrifice because its performance will bestow upon you all desirable things." The Lord created this material world for the conditioned souls to learn how to perform yajna, sacrifice, for the satisfaction of Vishnu, so that while in the material world they can live very comfortably without anxiety. Then after finishing the present material body, they can enter into the kingdom of God. That is the whole program for the conditioned soul. By performance of yajna, the conditioned souls gradually become Krishna conscious and become godly in all respects. In this age of Kali, the Sankirtan Yajna, the chanting of the names of the God, is recommended by Vedic scriptures, and this transcendental system was introduced by Lord Chaitanya for the deliverance of all men in this age. Sankirtan Yajna and Krishna consciousness go well together. Lord Krishna, in his devotional form as Lord Chaitanya, is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam as follows, with special reference to the Sankirtan Yajna. All together. Krishna Varnam Krishna Krishna Sangopangasya Parshadam Yajne Sankirtana Praye Yajanti Sumedhasa. In this age of Kali, people who are endowed with sufficient intelligence will worship the Lord, who is accompanied by his associates by performance of Sankirtan Yajna. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.32. Other yajnas prescribed in the Vedic literatures are not easy to perform in this age of Kali, but Sankirtan Yajna is easy and sublime for all purposes. Alright. And now we are waiting for the melody.
Krishna 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 Radha 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 Krishna Balade Sabai Radha Krishna Balade Sabai Radha Krishna Balade Sabai Radha Krishna Balade Sabai Ei Shikha diya Sabno diya 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 Kirchneche Gornitai Kirchneche Gornitai Radha Krishna Balare Sabai Radha Krishna Balare Sabai Radha Krishna 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 Krishna, Radha Krishna Krishna Krishna, Radha Krishna bol re sabai, Radha Krishna bol re sabai, bolo re sabai, Radha Krishna bol re sabai. নিশে মায়ার বসে যাচ্ছ ভেসে, খাচ্ছ হাবুডুবু ভাই, নিচে মায়ার বসে যাচ্ছ ভেসে, খাচ্ছ হাবুডুবু ভাই, নিচে মায়ার বসে যাচ্ছ ভেসে, খাচ্ছ হাবুডুবু ভাই, নিচে মায়ার বসে যাচ্ছ ভেসে, খাচ্ছ জীব কৃষ্ণ দাস, এই বিশ্বাস জীব কৃষ্ণ দাস, এই বিশ্বাস করলে তো আর দুঃখ নাই, করলে তো আর দুঃখ নাই, রাধা কৃষ্ণ বল রে সবাই, রাধা কৃষ্ণ বল রে সবাই, জীব কৃষ্ণ দাস, এই বিশ্বাস জীব কৃষ্ণ দাস, এই বিশ্বাস করলে তো আর দুঃখ নাই, করলে তো আর দুঃখ নাই, রাধা কৃষ্ণ বল রে সবাই, রাধা কৃষ্ণ বল রে সবাই, কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ, রাধা 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 কৃষ্ণ বল রে সবাই, রাধা কৃষ্ণ বল রে সবাই, কৃষ্ণ বল রে সবাই, রাধা কৃষ্ণ বল রে সবাই, কৃষ্ণ বলবে যাবে পুলক হবে, ঝরবে আঁখি বলি তাই, কৃষ্ণ বলবে যাবে পুলক হবে, ঝরবে আঁখি বলি তাই, কৃষ্ণ বলবে যাবে পুলক হবে, ঝরবে আঁখি বলি তাই, কৃষ্ণ বলবে যাবে পুলক হবে, ঝরবে আঁখি বলি তাই, রাধা কৃষ্ণ বলো সঙ্গে চলো, 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 এই মাত্র ভিক্ষা চাই, এই মাত্র ভিক্ষা চাই, এই মাত্র ভিক্ষা চাই, এই মাত্র ভিক্ষা চাই, রাধা কৃষ্ণ বল রে সবাই, 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 যায় সকল বিপদ ভক্তি বিনোদ, 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 বলেন যখন অনাম গায়, বলে যখন অনাম গায়, বলে যখন অনাম গায়, বলে যখন অনাম গায়, রাধা কৃষ্ণ বল রে সবাই, 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 রাধা কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ, 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 রাধা কৃষ্ণ বল রে সবাই, 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 হরে কৃষ্ণ। Is it on accordion?
Our tempo mein, yeah, we are on tempo. Tone, right? Yeah. This is 9.
Okay. You shall sing missionary prayers now? Okay. Sri Nrsimha Jai Nrsimha Jai Jai Nrsimha. 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 Kalladesha Jaya Padma Mukha Padma Vringa. 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 Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Prahlad Lad Daine.
Prahlad Lad Daine.
Hiranyakashipur Vrksha.
Hiranyakashipur Vrksh.
Hiranyakashipur Vrksha.
Hiranyakashipur Vrksh.
Shilatankanakalaye.
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 Ito Nishinha Parato Nishinha.
Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha.
Ito Nishinha Parato Nishinha.
Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha.
Yato Yato Yami Tato Nishinha.
Yato Yato Yami Tato Narsimha.
Yato Yato Yami Tato Nishinha.
Yato Yato Yami Tato Narsimha.
Bahir Nishinha Hidaye Nishinha.
Bahir Narsimha Hidaye Narsimha.
Bahir Nishinha Hidaye Nishinha.
Bahir Narsimha Hidaye Narsimha.
Narsinghamadim Sharanam Prapade.
Narsinghamadim Sharanam Prapade.
Narsinghamadim Sharanam Prapade.
Narsinghamadim Sharanam Prapade.
Tava Kara Kamala Varena Kham Adhuta Singha. Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringha. Keshavadhrita Narahari Rupa. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Tavu Karu Kamala Varena Kamaputra Singha. Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringha. Keshavadhrita Narahari Rupa. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Tava Kara Kamala Varena Kamadhuta Singham. Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringham. Keshavadhrita Narahari Rupa. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Kamu Karu Kamala Varena Kamaputra Singham. Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringham. Keshavadhrita Narahari Rupa. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Dev Jaya Nrsimha 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 Dev Jaya Prahlad Maharaj 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 Bhakti Vigna Bhagavan Nrsimha Bhagavan ki Bhakti Vinashana Srishti Bhagavan ki Nitai Gaur Premanande everybody all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you.
Prashant,
Most important.
Want to take home that also can take home?
yeah, you can take the printout home if you want.
These printouts. आजकल lecture का
Mahaprasade Govinde Mahaprasade Govinde Namo Brahmani Vaishnave Namo Brahmani Vaishnave Salpa Punna Vitam Rajan Salpa Punna Vitam Rajan Vishwasa Naiva Jayate Vishwasa Naiva Jayate Shariraya Vidyajal Shariraya Vidyajal Jarendriya Taheka Jarendriya Taheka Jive Phele Vishaya Sagore Jive Phele Vishaya Sagore তার মধ্যে জীবায়তি লোভময় সুদূরমতি তাকে যে তা কঠিন সংসারে কৃষ্ণ বড় দয়াময় করিবারে জীবে যায় সব প্রসাদ অন্ন দিল ভাই সেই অন্নামৃত পাও রাধা কৃষ্ণ গুণ গাও প্রেমে ডাকো শ্রী চৈতন্য নিতাই জয় নিমায় জয় নিতাই জয় শ্রী কৃষ্ণ চৈতন্য প্রভু নিত্যানন্দ শ্রী অদ্বৈত গদাধর শ্রীবাসাদি গৌর ভক্তবৃন্দ Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Please come take prasadam.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so thank you so much to, first of all, to Khyati Mataji and Meera Prabhu for hosting this endlessly. And also to all the devotees who have come here on a Saturday night to participate in Krishna Katha, as well as to all the viewers who are watching us online. With this, we will bring today's session to an end, and we'll meet again maybe in a fortnight's time. Okay? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So we will end the live broadcast now. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.